Hi, this
right.
is Larry London. We welcome you to Border Crossings. Today, we are joined by three guys that make up a country band that has been nominated for Academy of Country Music Awards and quite a few other awards in their illustrious career. They've been doing this for 35 years. We'd like to welcome the guys in McBride and the Ride who are joining us today. Hi, guys.
Hey, Larry.
Hey,
We've got
Larry.
Billy, we've got Terry, and we've got Ray. And you started off as a trio, and you're still a trio 35 years later.
All the original members, which Larry usually doesn't happen with that.
No, it doesn't.
No.
What's
And
been
we,
the key or the secret to your success? Well, what's kept you guys? Because you live in separate states, is that part of it? Or
no,
Well,
we still enjoy getting together. Yeah, we've always stayed in touch. We've always, we had a connection when we first met, so it's that's still there personally and musically. We sort of hit it off right from the get-go, and even though we took a break for quite a few years, we just sort of picked up right where we left off.
And you're all country music fans? Country music?
We
you've been into country music your whole lives?
No, not necessarily, but these guys have taught me a lot about country music.
What were you doing before, Billy?
I was doing probably more rock and roll than I was country. And so I moved from Los Angeles to Nashville in 1987. But when I met these guys, along with some other artists that I was working with, it really gave me a leg up. It really gave me some insight into what I think, I still call it the soul of country music, And they were fine. They turned me on even rock that I wasn't listening to, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, ZZ Top, stuff that was Texas-based, and I'd never really gotten into that. And both of them were very much into that. Along with like Ray and his club, he had his parents listened to a lot of Bob Wills, Western, more Western stuff. And so that to me was my antennas were up. It was great.
Ray, I see you got the Handlebar J t-shirt on. And I know
Yes,
and it's your club, it's your bar.
Is.
You don't have a mustache. What's going on with that? Where's your handlebar?
Not yet. I just shaved it off for this interview.
You did just for this interview.
No, actually, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the handlebar mustache came from the original owners that started Handlebar J back in the mid 60s. And he had a mustache and his name was George. His wife was Joni. So Handlebar J was Handlebar Joni. My folks bought it from them in 75 and we've run it and owned it ever since. Now I own it. My mom passed in 2017. Anyway, it's a cowboy club, restaurant, nightclub, live music. And, coincidentally, McBride and the Ride has played there many times over the years. And most recently, when we played there, we did this live record from there. So,
and you did two nights and you picked the best night of the two.
Correct. We did. We picked the best songs we could muster out of those two nights. Yes.
That's great. And they're like all your biggest hits that you guys are performing. And I know that the single you released in, I think it's June, was Amarillo Sky. And then you have another one that came out in July, which is called No More Crying. And so you guys have a lot of great music, quite a catalog. I'm going to get more into the history of McBride and the Ride as we go, but let's play a song. What are you guys going to do for us first?
Well, let's kick it off with the big hit from back in '92. This was the #1 song for us back in the day, and still a fan favorite. It's called Sacred Ground.
All right, Sacred Ground. It's McBride and the Ride here on Border Crossings.
We got married in high school, had a baby when we turned 18. I bagged groceries in the daytime, at night I learned to fix TV. When you come by things the hard way, well, you learn how to hold on tight. Don't think you can This ain't just something we all love collectively. It's a precious thing you don't know nothing about. We were joined in the eyes of the Lord, in the eyes of our hometown. Why don't you leave her alone? Treading on sacred ground. Yes, I took for granted she would never look at someone else. Now I got some patching up to do. Oh, and I don't need your help. I know you're the leaving kind. I sure hope you will. For she goes and burns those bridges. Took so long to build. Oh, this ain't just something we all love collectively. It's a precious thing you don't know nothing about. We were joined in the eyes of the Lord, in the eyes of our hometown. Why don't you leave her alone, treading on sacred ground? Go on and leave her alone. Why don't you leave her alone? Go on and leave her alone, treading on sacred ground.
Border Crossings here on the Voice of America, McBride and the Ride. Three guys that have been together for 35 years, which is a remarkable accomplishment in this industry where there's such a large turnover. The new album is coming out October 18th, the live album.
Correct.
And how did you pick the songs that you ended up putting on the album? I mean, that must be a difficult process because you guys have written so many songs, you've recorded so many songs. How did you
Well,
narrow it down?
Yeah,
we don't. Yeah, we really don't do all the songs, as many songs as we'd love to be able to do in a show. So we have usually about an hour to a 90-minute show these days. So we pretty much stick to a certain set list, and that set list consists of, you know, a lot of the hits that we had, like Sacred Ground and Same Old Star and Love on the Loose. For this live record, we sort of sifted through a couple nights worth of music that we recorded at Handlebar J out in Scottsdale, and kind of decided on the best sounding songs, number one, but also we wanted to try to, you know, of course, include the hits. So Love on the Loose will not be on this recording, but No More Crying is, and Amarillo Sky. Amarillo Sky was not a hit for us, but we recorded it first before Jason Aldean made it a hit. And they essentially took our version and copied it almost to a T and put it out on Jason. We knew it was going to be a hit. Unfortunately, our record label just couldn't muster up the whatever to get it out there on radio for us in 2002 when we did that record. And the name of that record was Amarillo Sky. But anyway, we put that on there because we felt that it's really kind of our song. So that's one of them. But, you know, so we just picked songs that we felt were strong and a few of the hits.
Now, speaking of names, how did you guys come up with McBride and the Ride?
Oh, it was so easy. It just fell right out of the sky.
Yeah, I
As
bet.
you can imagine. Yes. No,
That's
we
funny.
actually went through a whole bunch of names.
Give us a few.
And the one that we were trying to stick with was called Wild Horses at the time.
Oh,
And
Yeah, that was the band name, but a band in Ohio had it trademarked. They had an attorney in the band.
and that's
so-
no good. You don't go there.
They wanted
Yeah.
to sell us the name, and the label was not up for that. So we had to go back to the drawing board and finally came up with something that rolled right off the tongue eventually, you know. And band names are weird until you've had some success. I mean, I'm not sure the Beatles was the best band name until all of a sudden we loved the Beatles, you know.
Right,
but,
exactly.
True.
And they went through
Yeah,
many
true.
different names: the Silver Beatles,
Yeah.
the Quarrymen, and before they came out
That's
with
right.
the Beatles. So.
Right.
But then when you hear that music, all of a sudden, oh my God, I love the Beatles, you know. But so yeah, I mean that's the thing about radio, especially. They love the name, and that was great, you know, to get started. It's a good way to get started. And there were a lot of acts back in the day: Huey Lewis and the News, Bruce Hornsby and the Range, you know, McBride and the Ride. We thought that could work, you know, and unfortunately it did.
Amarillo Sky. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say it was on a painting that a guy had done, actually, of me when I was 19 years old, holding a saddle. He was a great Western artist here in Scottsdale, and he would go find subjects to paint. And I, being an entertainer and stuff, he said, "Hey, I'd love to do a portrait of you." So he took some photographs, and then he painted an incredible painting of me holding a saddle. I was 19, but he made me look like I was about 60, like I am now. And but anyway, the name of that painting, which I sort of didn't realize, was After the Ride. And when we were looking for a name, for some reason, I happened to be looking at that painting one night and racking my brain trying to come up with names that I could submit, as everybody was. And After the Ride, I thought, the ride, and they wanted to put Terry's name out front because he was singing the songs, but wanted to still keep the band vibe, you know. So the ride, and I submitted that name, and for whatever reason, it just, like Terry said, it rolled off the tongue and it stuck, and here we are.
I love it. McBride and the Ride.
You know, it's funny. I'm from Florida, and I wanted a band called the Gators, but they just wouldn't take it.
You were voted out.
I don't understand.
Voted off the island.
Yeah, McBride and the Hermit Crabs. I don't know, something about that. Doesn't quite have the same ring, Billy. Dang
No,
it.
it doesn't.
I mean, we love you, Billy. We love Florida, but I mean, come on. McBride and the Crustaceans. Yeah, I don't see none of that's going to work, Billy.
I sent a bunch of them. I don't know why they didn't catch on. I just don't know.
When you get your own band, you can be Billy and the Barnacles. How about that?
That's kind of close to what I am now, so it's all right. Yeah.
Don't get confused to our audience who's watching. It's McBride and the Ride.
No kidding, Larry. Get us back on track.
Yes,
Larry.
please.
Billy, Ray, and Terry are here. The original members, 35 years in to this, and you put out their last record was an EP. This is an EP. Are we, with all the songs you've got, are we headed to an album, or is the business just changed so much in the 35 years you've been doing this that the best way to go about it now is EPs and singles?
Well, and there's lately we've been growing and doing more collaborating on the songwriting end. So with that coming about, there's sort of a new well to draw from. So you never can tell what's going to come out. Right now, we felt like it was more important to have this live record out, to show people, like Terry said, what we do live, what the band does live. Because we had people saying, man, back in the 90s, you guys out in front of the Judds and whoever else we worked with, they would say it was a rocking band. They had no idea. They thought we were just three vocalists out there, and they came to know us as a touring act that was really explosive.
Well, and also, Larry, we all played and sang on the records. So it's not like a lot of bands and artists, of course, they don't really play, or especially play on their own records. And because we've all done so many things as players too. Terry played bass with Delbert McClinton and some great artists in Texas. So he comes, and with his dad originally. And of course, Billy, being a great drummer, plays with Vince Gill, has been playing with Vince forever. And he's humble, but back when he was living in LA, he was playing with Mac Davis and Ricky Nelson, and rock bands. Mm-hmm. And myself, I was playing in, rock bands and country bands and the whole diverse thing that we have between the three of us, from country to rock. But we all played and sang on those records. So to be able to recreate it live is it sounds like the band when you hear it live. So that's why we did the live record too.
I love it. Is your first live album?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we've never done a live record. So yeah, that was another part of it. And you're right, Larry, the model has sort of changed. A lot of major labels are going to these EPs. I guess it's just maybe more affordable. I don't know, but we'd love to do an album at some point. It'd be great to have vinyl, to sell as well, take on the road. That'd be cool. But and that's part of what we're doing moving forward. We love doing the hits from 3 decades ago, but we also want to continue to keep our eye on new music and creating and recording stuff as we go. Now that we're back together, we try to take advantage of all of that.
Well, I do have to ask, because I always ask a songwriter, singer, if you had to pick one or the other, if somebody came to you and said it's either songwriting or singing, which would you pick?
Oh. That's a good question.
I worry way more about singing than songwriting. I mean, you have to be on.
That's true.
Vocal rest is so important, and at 65, for some reason, it's even more important. But it's not as demanding. I think the songwriting part. They're both rewarding, though. That's the thing I do love about it. The songwriting. Not only do we get to record our songs, but having someone else record your song that you look up to, one of your heroes, that's a huge thrill. So I love that part of the songwriting side of it. But the pressure sometimes to be on as a singer takes away from the fun of the performance at times,
Yeah.
Sure. At the same time, as a singer too, for me, writing songs is great, but you're in a room with, either you're writing by yourself or you're with a co-writer or whatever on stage. That's a hard thing to replace when you're singing in front of a crowd that's listening to you, sing. And the performing aspect is such that's kind of why I did it. I loved getting out in front of a crowd, I guess. Of course, playing my instrument. And I still practice guitar as much as I can every day because I just love it. I enjoy it. And so many kids will say, how do you get to do the things you've done? And I say, well, it's like the old saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, right? Practice, practice, practice. And I'm still doing it. Practicing, you get to meet people when you're playing in bands, and there's no real formula to any of this. It just if you have the passion, it can transform into something else.
And you're asking about two different things. Songwriting is a whole different hat to wear to me than singing. When I sing with Ray and Terry, we're all about trying to blend and trying to make the choruses of these songs as unforgettable as they can be. And that all fell together very naturally. We haven't changed anything. That same blend came right back. Every time we take a vacation, it comes right back. It's just as natural as getting on a bicycle. And I was going to say that all three of us play instruments and sing. And I don't know which one of Ray and Terry, but I know that for me, singing came before drumming came for me, chronologically. And so people go, how do you do that? How can you play? Or, you hear a bass player sing and he's playing some crazy bass line and singing over the top of that lead. You just go, it's mind boggling to me. The same with guitar. It's just, but we all grew up doing both. And it's a very natural thing. So it's pretty unique to me in a band to have everyone that sings like that.
Who is your drummer inspiration that got you interested in drumming?
My father was a big supporter, so he got me into listening to Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich and Sandy Nelson and the Ventures. And then I kind of happened onto Ringo, and I thought that was the way to go when the 60s came out. And so
you owe it all to your older brother, Billy.
That's right. He got me he had a drum set that he didn't take to. He ended up being a jock. And so I took his drums down. And
wow. And here you are today, the drummer.
Yeah, the same. I mean, we all have roots of how we kind of happened onto this, and it's pretty amazing. So
now, Ray, I don't know if anybody's ever asked you, have you done TV commercials or radio commercials with your voice?
if you could pour your mouthwash into your toothpaste,
There you go.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I see behind you, Ray, you got a cello. Do you play cello?
Oh, that's my dad's bass. My dad, that's a big upright German bass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he passed in '81, and I mess with it sometimes. I'm not really a bass player, but it's a beautiful bass, and so I can't part with it.
Are you guys all self-taught? Did you teach yourselves how to play instruments and write music?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my dad showed me the first, here are 3 chords. Good luck. And I think he just wanted to see if I had any true interest, which of course I did. I wanted to be just like my dad. He didn't want me to be in the music business, so he wasn't pushing me to go in that direction. But then he did start grooming me as a bass player when I was about 12. He's like, listen, I'm the guitar player. I need a bass player. You want to grow up and play in my band, here's what's going to happen. So off to a pawn shop we went and bought this little copy SG bass, and I loved it. I went from 6 strings to 4. I went, what could be easier than that? I'm already downsizing. I like it. It was, you don't even have to make a chord, which I was in my room crying, trying to play, House of the Rising Sun over and over and over again. And so, yeah, bass was just, I was drawn to it and took to it really right away. It's an interesting instrument and plays an important part with the rhythm section. And my dad was very serious. He would drop subtle hints like, hey, the band's dragging, Terry, little things like that to let me, keep me in line when I was a young guy. So I wanted to please him. So it made me a better bass player for sure.
I was talking to Ray before we started the interview about celebrity lookalikes. And I think probably he looks like Bill Clinton a little bit.
Wow.
Well, but you, Terry, look like Peter Fonda. I mean, when I first saw you,
wow.
I said, yeah. So,
hey, I'll take that.
Yeah.
He was always cool. It's the glasses, I guess.
It's the glass, the Roy Orbisons. Yeah.
I get that a lot of people say, you look like Jack Nicholson, or what? It's like, I look nothing like Jack Nicholson, but the glasses do,
And I see Johnny Cash behind you on the piano. Is that one of your role models, your inspirations?
Well, I love Johnny. That's from a tribute show I did for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame up in Cleveland a few years back, which was it was a really cool cast of artists from the Oak Ridge Boys to it was just a variety of people, and there. It was wonderful. And the Man in Black. That was one of my dad's favorite artist, and I met him briefly one day, and he didn't know who I was, but I was just thinking, gosh, my dad would be having a fit right now if he knew I was at this clothier, this designer Manuel, and Johnny Cash had on a shirt that day that Manuel had made him in 1967.
Wow.
And I thought, you're about to get your money's worth out of that shirt, Johnny, but
it only took 20 years to put the shirt on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, he was quite an amazing artist, to say the least, right up until the end,
Yeah, absolutely. And so who inspired all of you guys? I mean, who do you like in the old country genre and in today's country music? Who do you guys like?
I mean, my hero was Willie Nelson growing up as a songwriter side of it. He really changed the way I listened to music. It wasn't just radio anymore after I got turned on to Willie. It was that Shotgun Willie and then Phases and Stages album. Those songs were so sad and so well crafted as Willie's pretty masterful, songwriter. And I just became a huge fan of that. And he was living like 60 miles down the road where I was growing up, which is kind of mind blowing. I thought, in high school, I could drive my Chevelle to Austin an hour away and I could see him at night, Armadillo World headquarters, or be back in high school the next day. So it was all surreal and unbelievable. One of my heroes right there in person, and I was very impressionable back then. And that was a huge inspiration for me as far as someone that really changed the way, like I said, I listened to music. He made me really think about it, in a different way.
He just turned 91, and I heard he canceled a few concerts because he's not feeling so well.
Yeah, and now he's back.
He's back on the road. That's great.
Yeah, he bounced back. I know he's having breathing issues, obviously.
Yep.
But I think it's a lot to deal with that when he's having bad times with it.
And he's got his
But,
kids with him, right? His sons
yeah.
are in the band. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucas is out there a lot, I know for
Mhm.
sure. And that tour is pretty interesting. You know, it's a good lineup and people love it. He lets the crowd sing along a lot now, which, you
Mhm.
know, is, and everybody does anyway.
Yes,
but
yes.
that's become the thing, Larry. I don't know when that took off, but boy, if you're not prepared for it, you better get ready, because you might not even hear the artist. You'll hear the guy behind you singing in your head all night long.
Well, that's the good thing about having hits, is that, you know, the crowds know the lyrics, and then you can
They
just
love
take a
it.
break and say, okay, you know.
Yeah.
You might not hear Billy Joel. You might hear Billy Schmo behind you all night long. Unfortunately.
So Billy and Ray, who inspires you, old and new?
I would say before I met Terry and Ray, and I was still living in California at the time, I went out and bought a single of Merle Haggard. And there was something intriguing about his voice and his songwriting that just, I had to know more about him. So when I moved here, I was lucky enough to play on a Emmylou Harris record, and then went out and toured with her for a short while, maybe a year or something like that. And she said, so who are you listening to? She knew about me just moving. She said, and I said, well, I listen to Ricky Skaggs and I listen to this guy, Merle Haggard. And she went, well, if you like Merle Haggard, why don't you, here's another guy that came before him that influenced him named Lefty Frizzell. So she was on to this thing of kind of the big sister going, check this out. It really was.
Yeah.
And she was so right on with all this stuff that it led me down a rabbit hole kind of early. It helped really show me what the roots of what I felt country music is.
Yeah. Ray, how about you?
Mm-hmm. Well, like these guys, diverse musical background, really. But my father was also a musician, like Terry's, and he grew up here in Phoenix playing in local bands, but he was way into Western swing and Ray Price and that kind of thing. But he always had the radio station here, KNIX. It used to be called K-Tough KNIX back in the day, AM radio. So I was always listening to that. And so he and my mom had that radio station on when I get up in the morning. And so I was listening to Buck Owens, and all of those country artists of the day were just seeped into my brain as a little kid. And then when my father started playing at Handlebar, and he'd been playing years prior to that, but he started playing in the band at Handlebar J in '67. And so, that gave me sort of an outlet to sing country music. And so I started listening to a little more intensely to some of those guys like Merle Haggard, because it led his voice kind of, my voice kind of let me sing a little bit like him. So I sound a little like him. So I started listening to him in the 70s pretty intently, and Willie Nelson too. But for me, Merle was Ramblin' Fever, and That's the Life, or the Rodeo Cowboy, and of course Swinging Doors. Those songs just for whatever the reason just hit me. And so along with Doobie Brothers, when my voice was higher, I had to change as my voice dropped. So I went to Merle Haggard songs. And so
you went
I just
from Mike McDonald to Merle Haggard, is that?
Well, actually, no, that was prior to Michael McDonald, actually.
Oh, prior.
So.
Wow. We've got the guys from McBride and the Ride with us. The new album coming out October 18th is Amarillo Sky. Make sure you plan to get a copy of that. Would you guys do another song for us?
How about Love on the Loose, Heart on the Run?
All right. That sounds good to me. Love on the Loose. It's McBride and the Ride here on Border Crossings. Crossings, McBride and the Ride and Love on the Loose. And so you guys, what's the writing process like for you guys? Is there one guy writes, or do you do this collaboratively? How does the writing process go?
Well, in the past, Terry's devoted so much time and energy to that. It's truly a passion, I know, of his. And I think it is for Ray as well, and myself as well. So like I said, we just started, I think. We collaborated a couple times way back when, but we're actually cutting out time and schedule to try and do that more together. And I think for me, it makes it feel more of a band voice happening when you get three people collaborating. Mm-hmm. And we talk about every line. Sometimes one person will have a chorus idea or something like that. And then there's always another collaborator always.
Well, it's beneficial to have the vocal band in the room as you're writing, if we stumble onto a melody that lends itself to these three-part harmonies that we're known for, then we can really milk that direction. We can really know what's going to work for us, whether, aside from like trying to write a George Strait song or something, which I love doing that too. But when we're in the room, we know what we can do and what we do best and what we do well. So that's that gives us a one-up as far as the songwriting, because it's the great unknown with songwriting. Larry, you get into a room over the years, it's just been such a strange business. It's like, hey, how you doing? You might meet a guy for the first time. Now let's sit down and pour our hearts out here, and let's write this song. It's a strange dance that has to happen. It doesn't always work out. You're not successful every single time you get up to bat. Sometimes you knock it out of the park. Sometimes it's a hit and a miss,
Right.
But when it does hit, it's a wonderful feeling, and you know you're onto something great, and that really helps you get through the song, and you can't wait to finish it because you're onto something so good. Mm-hmm. And with us together, we know each other so well. We're comfortable in the room, so we don't have to deal with that part, Larry, like getting to know each other. Or, I hope this doesn't offend you if I say this.
Right.
There's none of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that really frees us up to say goofy stuff or try something, and that really helps in the songwriting process. You need to be yourself. You need to be able to express what's on your mind. And I've had those moments way back in the day writing with some of my heroes, and I held back just because I didn't want to appear to be completely ignorant, for fear that I might say something completely unacceptable, but that was never really my first co-write in Nashville was with Guy Clark, one of my all-time heroes of growing up on these Jerry Jeff Walker albums, seeing this Guy Clark. I'd go in high school like, who the hell is Guy Clark, and then later, of course, I realized who he was, and then I got to write with him, and it was so intimidating. And but he really made me feel welcomed and made me feel like I had a shot, and he had no idea how much confidence he gave me from that very first meeting. But songwriting, it's really tough, but you get that connection, and I've made those connections over the years. Certain songwriters are my go-to. I know, like with Ronnie Dunn, Brooks and Dunn, I spent 13 years with Ronnie. We connected on many levels, and music was one of those. Our vocal stylings was one. So it helped us get to where we were going. I could take a note way up here, and so could Ronnie. He could hit that note. So we could go. There were no limits to what we might be able to achieve, and fortunately we did have some success because of that.
Well, that's great. I mean, you guys are well-respected songwriters in the industry, which a lot of people don't know. I mean, fans of McBride and the Ride may or may not know that you guys have written for, as you said, Brooks and Dunn. You guys have written for Reba. One of you has.
Reba.
And quite a few others. There's a big long list of all these people you've written for.
Well, through Brooks and Dunn, I managed to have a couple duets with Reba, and that's and then I've had a couple cuts with Reba as well on her records, and Ronnie and I wrote a single for her back in the day. Mm-hmm. It's during that period when I was writing. When we disbanded back in like '95, Brooks and Dunn recorded a song of mine, then George Strait, and then that became my new career. I was always hoping to get songs cut. I was just using McBride and the Ride is my vehicle back in the day because that's what I was into and that's what we were doing. We were trying to have hits but then after that, I had to figure out what am I going to do. Fortunately, songwriting started being, the main outlet for me, and it led to some really great opportunities there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna ask a cliche question, and you've probably been asked this and you've heard it asked before. If you guys were stuck on a desert island, what album would you want to have with you? What's an album that you can't live without?
Oh my gosh.
Album.
Boy,
good question.
That is a good
one.
That's two questions. You've hit us with two stumpers here. Yeah,
I know.
You realize that. You've probably been up all night thinking about this.
I have. I've been no sleep.
Well, I mean, I love Willie Nelson, like I stated. I mean, there's so many great, but it's not just Willie. All of us, we all have so many artists that we love and still get to tour with and we respect out there. But I'd say something by Willie that would just take me back to a happy place, when I was teenage guy trying to get started and figuring it out. Those albums really take me back there. So that's always a good feeling. I mean, I'm not going to rock out on the island with Willie, but I will be. I'd find some comfort in that for sure.
Ray, have you thought of an album?
Well, again, our backgrounds are so diverse, and being a guitar player, I gravitate a lot of times, aside from vocal, recordings from everybody from Merle Haggard to Steely Dan to James Taylor. I would probably take a Joe Pass record with me. He's an incredible jazz guitarist because it just never gets old to me.
Well, that's the great thing about being in a trio is that you get 3 albums you can take with you.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. We're talking to McBride and the Ride. We've got Ray, Terry, and Billy with us, and the new album is Amarillo Sky. And they've got a live album. The Amarillo Sky album is a live album named after one of their very early hits, 30-something years ago. I think 2002 is right around when you put it out, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
So one of the early hits for these guys, and we're happy to have you guys on with us. And would you do another song?
Sure. Let's do Marlboros and Avon.
All right, here's Marlboros and Avon, and it's McBride and the Ride on Border Crossings.
'70s were raging on. I was a teenage kid moving on to high school. TV music and driving screens set the stage for life and dreams in a small town. His dad's on out the window with that blue Mercury monkey. Mom making his kids settle down, yelling from the front seat. Memories and pictures take me back. Live on. I'll never forget the smell of Marlboro and Avon. Bell bottoms and platform shoes. Walter Cronkite on in a living rooms. And a war in Vietnam. CCR and the Rolling Stones. Fading in and out on that car stereo. We were flying down the road with Dad's arm out the window. That blue Mercury monkey. Mom making his kids settle down, yelling from the front seat. Memories and pictures take me back. and Avon. Been like summer since '73. We're back now, I can still see. That's all out the window, that blue Mercury monkey. I'm making us get it settled down, yelling from the front seat. Memories and pictures take me back. Live on. I'll never forget the smell of Marlboros and Avon. Marlboros and Avon.
Border Crossings, McBride and the Ride, and Marlboro and Avon. And boy, I'll tell you, that's a lot of tongue twisters.
It's hard to say.
You've covered all the syllables in all of those. But, so what's been the highlight for you guys? Because 35 years is a long time to be doing this. Did I stump you again, Billy?
No, I think that there were a lot along the way. For me personally, it was probably us being nominated for ACM Vocal Group of the Year, to be amongst our peers and to be known for something, and finally achieving notoriety for what we went out and worked really hard, and we were lucky enough to be put in front of an awful lot of people in a really short amount of time, and we took advantage of that. We worked really hard on trying to bring our show up, and that's what I keep going back. It's the same show. A lot of what we used to have, we are working on now and trying to capture in this live album. So that would be probably the highlight.
How about for you other guys, Terry and Ray? What are your highlights from your vast career?
I think that having the number one song, that was such an exciting moment. We'd had a couple singles that had done well, top 15, that sort of thing, top 10, whatever. But once we got to number one, the crazy thing, Larry, that was 92, the summer of 92, we were stuck at number 2 behind Achy Breaky Heart. Of all the songs, I just saw Billy Ray over the weekend at the Opry. I mean, sweet guy. He has always been so nice. And he actually opened some shows, he reminded me, solo before he ever had his record deal up in Camden Park in West Virginia. But that was a big moment for us. I mean, it's very competitive out there in that early 90s. There were a lot of acts having a lot of success. And to have a single that made its way through all that and broke through, and it became sort of a signature song, which it's still a fan favorite to this day, 3 decades later. People can't wait to hear that song. So pretty special, even now.
Ray?
Well, all those things, yes. The live things, opening for the Judds, and being in the studio with Tony Brown was always a highlight for me, just getting to soak up all of the stuff, learning how to play in the studio, playing with a band in the studio, recording was always a highlight for me. But one of the highlights, and these guys I'm sure they haven't forgotten, but having Jerry Lewis introduce us on the Jerry Lewis telephone was always something that stuck in my mind. Did he do it well, or did he mess up the name, or what?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure who these guys are.
He did better than Porter Wagner did, because Porter brought us on the Opry. He couldn't remember who we were. He was like, ladies and gentlemen, you know them, you love them. He was just stalling. He couldn't figure out
who they are.
What's the name of the band?
That's right. And then I came out and I said, what an honor to be on the Opry and have Porter Wagner almost know who you are,
That's a classic. That's a great line. How many times have you guys been on the Opry?
Not that many. Only a couple times. We just played it last year. We're hoping to do it again this year around the release of this live EP. But Billy and I were just out there over the weekend. Billy's wife dances and one of the square dancers on stage, and my son-in-law is sang with his dad. My son-in-law is Billy Ray's son, Brazen. So it's I went out to hear him and support him, and he did a great job. And so the opera backstage is crazier than what you're seeing on stage. It's so
Really?
crazy. Oh, there are just so many characters. There are all these dressing rooms, all these bands, all these people, all these guests behind the stage. They need to be filming that. That's where the good stuff is going on back there. It's pretty cool.
Right there.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. They ought to make the rounds and go.
I want to cut.
Although they charge, they do charge for tours now, so they probably don't want to be.
When I asked you what your highlight was, I'm surprised nobody said hearing our song on the radio for the first time, because that's usually something that you never forget in your entire life, is where you were the first time you heard your song on the radio.
Larry, I got it. I was in Austin, Texas, and the big station there was Case 101, and KVET. They were wearing our songs out, the first single even. They played that. It wasn't even a big hit. But I was driving in my Camaro. I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. It's like a dream come true. Like you said, it's such a moment. You can't believe it. And I got this radio cranked up, and then I got pulled over by a cop going, I don't know how fast, pretty exciting. And so I was still excited. The song was still on.
Oh, and did you tell him that's me?
I said, man, I'm on the radio. He looked at me stone-faced and said, yeah, and I'm Johnny Cash, is what he told me. and then wrote me out a ticket, Larry. He did not spare me anything. He's like, yeah, he was not buying it at all.
Well, lucky he didn't have to do a sobriety test. He's got to check this guy out. He's on the radio. You guys remember where you were? Ray and Billy? When you heard the song?
I would say, let's see. I think you guys are going to laugh at this. These guys, we were all in a car together, riding down the road with a MCA promotion man, an old kind of crusty promotion man in Georgia. And I think I heard Love on the Loose, and I went, oh my goodness. And the guy's name was Joe Dieter.
Oh,
Dieter's. Yeah, you remember that. But I don't know why that comes back. And, we're all, woo-hoo, we're all, right. He goes, all right, now we got to go visit a station. It's just kind of like, okay, now you're back to get to work.
Right. Ray, where were you?
Yeah, I was out here in Arizona. I lived in Scottsdale the whole time that we were together in the 90s. And so I heard the song Can I Count on You on KNIX, and KNIX being Buck Owens, used to be Buck Owens' station. He owned it for many years. But when I heard Can I Count on You on KNIX, I thought, wow, maybe we've made it.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. That's something you never forget. Do you guys do a lot of touring? I know you're doing a summer tour, but do you do a lot of touring, or because you're in different places doing?
Well, as the band, we got back together right as the COVID thing started happening, and we got back together after a little hiatus after our 2002 Amarillo Sky record, and when radio really was still trying to figure out, where they're at, what they're doing. We couldn't get the songs on the radio, so we took another break, and then we came back and, decided to do this right as the COVID thing started happening. I flew to Nashville. I was still living out here. And between now and then, I actually did move to Nashville for about 14 years. And then I moved back to Arizona to help my mom with the club. But I just flew out there. We got together, started singing. It's like putting on an old pair of shoes. We picked up right where we left off. And, so the last 3 years, we've been kind of off and on touring.
Well, Larry,
riding the ride. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, as far as touring goes, we are certainly open to touring. We're taking on what all three of us can make now. And we are trying to put together tours to go out. And we feel like what we take on fits us really well. And so we're out there doing it. And we, like everybody else, if you talk to in this business, the touring business has changed drastically. And we discuss this a lot, and we are working more lean than we've ever worked before. And we're all happy and pretty comfortable doing that, knowing that we can come home, make the same statement, make a large footprint, using less money to do that, you know? And so we are getting asked back to certain venues, and that's a real positive these days and time.
Well, you might be invited to play in some of these places where they're watching us for the very first time and just meeting McBride and the Ride. We're on in 100 countries around the world. And so have you done any international touring, or would you be up for going to Japan? Because country's very big in Japan.
Sure. Oh, that'd be exciting. I've always wanted to go to Japan. Honestly, I really have. I've had friends that have gone, and I'd love to experience that. We didn't do a lot of. Back in the day, we were about 200 shows a year back in the 90s. It was country was just on fire, you know, and they had us playing everywhere. We're a little more selective now. We go out about a weekend or two a month. And like Billy said, we're doing dates that we want to do instead of just trying to fill up our calendar. But I mean, going overseas would be an amazing experience. And I think we could, you know, we would find an audience there, you know, based on what we do and how we sound. But that would be exciting. Yeah.
You could do a USO tour, because I know country music has been big supporters of the military and have done many USO tours.
Oh, a lot of friends. A lot of my friends have done those tours over the years. You bet. Still doing it.
Now
we'd even settle for Wolf Trap or the Birchmere.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys can get into Wolf Trap. Come on now.
You're right in the middle of some good.
They got 3 different
up there.
stages there, so each one of you can have your own stage. So Ray, I see Handlebar J is your shirt, and I know that's where you recorded the live album. How many people does Handlebar J seat?
Not a lot, about 150 inside, and we have about a patio that seats about 150. It's a small club.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, because I'm sure you've done festivals with 50,000 people, and you've done the intimate small clubs with 100 people. Do you have a preference which crowd size you liked more than the other? I mean, because it's very intimate when you're singing to 100 people. You know,
it is. When they're excited, it doesn't matter if there's 10 people or there's 10,000. When the crowd's excited, and you feed off of that excitement. Of course, it's great to play for thousands of people, but we've gotten to do both, you know, in the span of our career, to be able to play for, like I said, 10 excited fans can be as fun as playing for 10,000, in my opinion.
Now, if people want to find you, they want to find your touring schedule, they want to buy Amarillo Sky, where do they go? Their website?
The best place is McBrideandtheride.com. That gives you a little bit of everything, touring information, and it'll lead you to music and all that sort of stuff. But we're all over all the socials. You can find us out there, and we love hearing from fans. So yeah, check us out. And if you get a chance, come see us out on the road. Love to see you one day, Larry. And thanks so much for having us on. We've enjoyed this.
What a pleasure it is to meet you guys and to have you on the show. And I really appreciate all your time. You're very generous with your time. So thank you guys for doing this. They are 3 country music superstars. McBride and the Ride is the name of the group. And collectively, they've written many, many, many hit songs for many, many artists in the country genre.
Sure.
You know, I really appreciate it. One thing I like to do at the end of every show is give the band a chance to say hi to the troops and to the worldwide audience too. So if you guys have a message you want to send out, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh man, we just appreciate all you do for us, you know, and I can't say enough about that. And we'd love to get over into other parts of the world where you're at and come entertain you at some point. And then once you make it back home, wherever you are, come see us. We'd love to recognize you at our shows anytime.
Yeah, thanks go ahead, Ray.
We want to send our sincere thank you for your sacrifice to all our military men and women out there serving this great country. Thank you so much from all of us, Terry, Billy, and myself, McBride and the Ride. Thank you.
And thanks for protecting our freedom.
We salute you
guys. Congratulations on everything, all the success. It's McBride and the Ride here on Border Crossings. Thanks for watching VOA TV.